right now, I have the honor of introducing our first speaker for tonight, Jackie Berry. Earlier on, when we interacted with her, she just strikes me as an incredible woman with tremendous positive energy that transmits even through the Zoom screen. So she's also shared with us that she's the author of the book Experiential Speaking, and that she's even come up with a new book that is going to be launched soon that is specifically for that through the Zoom, for Zoom speaking. So having been a copywriter for 38 years, she's now spending 1/3 of her time doing copywriting, but another 2/3 training people how to write better. So I can't wait to hand over the time now over to Jackie Berry, where she will be sharing with us on how to write copy that gets the response you want. Over to you, Jackie.
Hello, Nin Hao, Salamat Patang, Namaste. In this session, you will get a copywriting theory that you might already know, but it underpins all good marketing. And you will get practical tips of how to actually apply it. And we'll look at some case studies. So thank you to APSS members who volunteered to be featured to give you an example of what it looks like in the real life. As you know, I'm renowned for online engagement. You're going to need a blank piece of paper. You might, if you're traveling, not be able to join in this exercise, but if you're in your home or an office, go and get yourself a blank piece of paper. And as soon as you come back, show it to the camera and then I'll know when you are ready. Okay, if you've got your piece of paper off camera, I'm doing the same thing so you'll hear me in the background. Fold it in half. This is the origami bit of the session. I bet you weren't expecting that. And tear off a little piece in the top right hand corner. Fold it in half again, still off camera, and tear off a little piece in the top right hand corner. Then a third time, fold it in half, tear off a little piece in the top right hand corner, and the fourth time, it gets harder now, depending on the thickness of the paper you've chosen, tear off a piece in the top right hand corner. And as soon as you have done that, open your piece of paper and show it to the camera, and we'll see if anyone has the same as me, they win a prize. Has anybody got the same as me? Oh, look how different they all are. First of all, no one that I can see matches mine, but no one matches each other. Isn't that interesting? I don't have to give away a prize. You'd have got my new book absolutely free, never mind. How it works is this: the responsibility of effective communication is with the person that does the communicating. If I actually wanted you to reproduce this, you needed to ask me questions. You need to know, which way did I turn the paper? How big was the corner that I tore? So for this, the spoken word was not the right channel of communication. You needed the visual as well, or the opportunity to interact and quiz me about what we were doing and why we were doing it. But the point of it is, it's up to you to get your message across in the right way, in the right channel that your audience will react and respond to. So let's look at then this 4-step formula that underpins all good copywriting. As I say, you might be familiar with it, but you might not know how to actually apply it in real life. It's the upturned pyramid called AIDA. First, you have to grab attention, because if you don't do that, no one will notice what it is that you're writing about. Then you've got to keep people interested. You'll get 2 techniques for how to do that during this session. Then you've got to generate desire so that they know what you're offering is what they want to buy. And finally, you've got to prompt them to take action. I'm going to show you the next slide for 3 seconds, and your task is to count how many red dots you see, and then I'll tell you what to do when you've counted them. Okay, get ready, look at your screen, you've got 3 seconds, here we go. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds, stop. Go to the chat box and type how many blue squares there were and then hit enter. Let's have a look at what everybody thinks on blue squares. Sorry, this is the only trick question you'll get. We've got some 8s, 4s, 5s, 9s, 8s. Don't know, didn't count, 5s. Not all 11 we've got. All right, how many red dots were there? Everybody put how many red dots. You can see much more consistency. Pretty much everybody's saying there are 8 red dots because you're obedient people. You did what you were told to do. I will reveal the answer. Yes, there were 8 of all the symbols. Now, what is going on there is that in a day, we get more marketing messages than our grandparents did in a lifetime, and the human brain can't cope with that amount of input. So what the human brain does is filter out anything that's not directly relevant. And that means that's what just happened to you. Your brains were counting red dots because you're obedient people, and you filtered out anything that wasn't a red dot. Why that's important when it comes to grabbing attention is because the same thing is happening to your audience, your target reader. Their brains are overloaded, so they are filtering out anything that is not directly relevant. They will only give their attention when you give them a laser focused, directly relevant headline on a website, subject line on an email, message on social media, whatever that might be, that grabs their attention from their point of view. And that's the reason why it's so important. Let's imagine that we can all travel the world and go anywhere we've ever dreamed of going. And you have always dreamed of seeing Mount Everest. So you book a hotel with a view of Mount Everest and you travel, you get there, you register, you go into your hotel room and you fling open the windows for your first view of Mount Everest, unmute and shout out, what do you think you see? Anybody?
Mount Everest.
Mount Everest, yes, people usually think that it's dark, it's cloudy, it's snowing, it's a brick wall or a car park. No, I promise you that was the only trick question. What you see is something that looks a bit like this. Because Mount Everest is in the Himalayas, it's a mountain range. The trouble is you're not sure if it's this one which is nearer so it looks bigger, or it's this one which is further away so it looks smaller. But you also get the chance to go to Australia and see Ayers Rock, Uluru, and you book your hotel and you hop on a minibus dawn or dusk and you drive out there and you get off the minibus, unmute and tell me, what do you think you see?
Ayers Rock.
Ayers Rock.
Ayers Rock.
You see something that looks a bit like this. Is that not like every picture of Uluru, Ayers Rock that you've ever seen? I've been there, that's exactly what it looks like. Now the thing is, Uluru is about 1/10 the size of Everest, but the impact of seeing it is greater because it's different from its surroundings. It's a great big red rock sticking out of a flat red desert. And the moral of that story when it comes to grabbing attention is, even if you're the biggest and best in the whole world, like Everest, if you present yourself to the world the exact same way everyone else does, no one's going to notice. You're not going to stand out and get attention. What you want to do in your marketing is be Uluru, not Everest. Be brave and do something different. Now let's talk about how do you keep them interested. Well, there are 2 ways. The first way is that commonly people, when they write their About Me profile or their Meet the Team biography or their LinkedIn or their company history, typically they write it in chronological order because that's the way we were all taught at school. They start with, well, the company was founded in 1973 and then we did this and then we did that and then we moved and then we bought this machine and then we appointed this chief exec. And if you're lucky, it will end up with, now we're doing this and here's our postal address and fax number. But to keep it interesting, you need to turn it upside down. It's another upturned pyramid, the upturned pyramid of news, a lesson from journalism. News is a very fast churn of information. It's obviously changing hourly, daily. publications are printed daily or weekly, and online you've got rolling news 24/7. People consume news really quickly. So what happens is, as soon as you get the point, you click away or you turn the page when you're reading news. And it's exactly the same for people reading your copy. As soon as they get the point, they'll turn the page or they'll click away. And that means you can't bury the best bit at the end, because there's a risk people won't get there. You have to put the best bit at the top, and then they won't miss it. So the lesson to keep people interested from a copywriting perspective is to turn it upside down. Start with where you are today and end up with how you got there. So start with the best bits for them, the things that are relevant and interesting to them, and end up with the background information. This is you, and this is your target reader, and you've got a message you want to communicate with them about how brilliant you are and how they ought to book you to run a session for them. Your goal is to get your message into their brain. The trouble is, they've already got something in their brain. They've got a thought, and the thought is, what's in it for me? WIFM for short, a classic marketing acronym. Now, typically, when a company writes information about themselves, they use their name, their company name, they use words like I, us, we, and our. I call that top-down copywriting. But there are only 2 words that answer this question from this person's point of view, and that's the words you and your. The only word more powerful than those is their own name. If you're doing one-to-one marketing, you can personalize it with their own name, such as emails or direct mail. But if you're doing one-to-many marketing, such as websites or adverts, you don't know their name, so you have to use you and your, and I call that bottom-up copywriting. So to keep it interesting from this person's perspective, what you need to do is cross out these words and replace them with these words as much as possible. I would say a ratio of 2-to-1 if you're kind of person that likes to count numbers. Or at the very least, make sure that all these words are in the bottom half or third of your marketing document, and these words are in the top, for the purpose of keeping people interested. A for attention, I for interest, D for desire. How do you trigger desire? How you do that is by answering the what's in it for me question from the reader's point of view, and you do that by turning features into benefits. It's pretty easy to list the features of the product or the service that you sell, but to turn them into benefits, I'll put in the chat 3 questions you can ask. The first question is, so what? Some people will write things like, we're award-winning. Well, so what? Unless that has meaning for the reader, that's not actually a selling point. The next question is, who cares? A lot of people will write, I'm passionate about, or I'm proud that. Well, it fails the who cares test, because to be honest, no one cares how passionate or proud they are. They only care what's in it for them. And the third technique for turning features into benefits is to write your feature and then say, which means that. And that explains what's in it for me directly from the reader's point of view, which is what triggers desire. And the 4th step in the AIDA model is, how do you prompt them to take the action you want them to take? With every marketing piece, you're going to have a most wanted response. And all your copy should work backwards from that to guide people to taking that action. In the old days, the only way you could prompt action was by clipping a coupon out of a magazine. You can picture what it looked like. It would be a dashed or I can't speak now. It will be a dotted or dashed line, not a dashed line. That's not a thing. Luckily, I write better than I talk. So it would have a scissors symbol and the words cut here. And all the research from 50, 60 years ago shows that more people cut it out when it has a scissors symbol and the words cut here, the reason being people are obedient. They do what you tell them to do. Even today, if you do online shopping, you'll find the parcel arrives with cut here and a scissors symbol. And unless you are a real rebel, you will cut along the dotted line because that's what people do. And the lesson for your call to action is it needs to be no more complicated than a scissors symbol and the words cut here. And if you just put a straight phone number, the research shows more people will call it when you say call now and then the phone number than just leaving the phone number as a standalone. So there you are, with a walk through the AIDA model, tried, tested and proven for decades, and some actual practical techniques for how to use it. When I'm writing as a copywriter for clients, they think this is magic. They give me some draft text and all I've done is change the top-down language to bottom-up, restructured it so the most useful information's at the top and turn features into benefits. They think it's a miracle. But when you know how, it's easy. It takes a bit of practice, but it gets easier the more you do it. How I came up with these 10 mistakes that speakers make was by doing some Googling of speakers, looking at all their websites and seeing what were the most common errors or tricks that they were missing. Is the website hard to find? If you can't be found in the first place, no one's going to look at it. It's not responsive and doesn't work well on a small screen. But this is number 8 in the rundown. It's out of date, meaning that the last blog post was 5 years ago. It looks as though that business might not still be trading. At number 7, it's hard to read. There are problems with the fonts or the contrast. At number 6, it's hard for you to be booked. At number 5, the wrong point of view. That means the top down, bottom up. Number 4, no trust signals. That means no recommendations, reviews, star ratings, testimonials. At number 3, not using video when you're a speaker. You'll be judged by how you are on camera, whether that's on stage or in a Zoom room. At number 2, failing to answer what's in it for me. That is the biggest deal from the reader's perspective. At number 1, making it unclear what that prospective client ought to do next. What happens if somebody is Googling for a speaker? What are they going to see when they do that? So I've done a live Google search for motivational speaker Singapore and look what comes up. First of all, you get adverts. Now you need to be aware, by the way, that when you do a Google search, you'll see different results to me, because depending whether you're logged into Google or not will give you different results, and depending where you are in the world will give you different results. So this is what I see from the Google search today. I've searched motivational speaker Singapore and the first thing I see are adverts, and it happens, here's Succo Selling has paid for an advert, and the first free result in the listings is David Lim, the Everest guy by happy coincidence, and then we get Tom Abbott. We're going to look at what he's done on his website in a minute. Then if we scroll down a little bit more, look what we get, asiaspeakers.org. So anybody that's a member of APSS has a good chance of being found through that search of Motivational Speakers Singapore. For anyone looking for that service, because they might click through and find you on the member list. So a big benefit of APSS. Well, we start with a video, but the next thing I just wanted to point out was this section, top 4 reasons to hire Tom. That is critical because when you think from the point of view of a reader who is looking for a speaker, they're not thinking, why do I need a motivational speaker? They've already in that place in their head, or they wouldn't be doing that search at all. What they're thinking at the moment they land on that website is, why choose this motivational speaker and not that one? And the fact the web copy answers that directly is talking to them at the point they are in their thought process. A very clever trick. These are some of the great things that are on this homepage. First of all, if I scroll down, you'll see, look at these numbers. This is when numbers are more convincing than words. You can take one glance and think, this person knows what he's doing. He's been doing this a long time. Then you've got client logos. You can look instantly at this and the reader will think, oh, look, programs delivered for people like Uber and Oracle and Yamaha. If he's good enough for them, he's good enough for me. If you then look at the speaker page, you can see here are videos, lots and lots of videos, including show reels, and even more importantly, including video testimonials that are even more convincing than written ones. And anybody deciding whether to choose you is more likely to choose you because of what other people say about you than they are about anything you say yourself. That's the power of testimonials and case studies when they're authentic. Someone landing on your website might not be in that moment ready to buy. So then what you want to do is capture their email address so that you can keep sending them valuable information, remind them that you exist, remind them that you're thinking of them. And here, this is the pop-up that you would normally get when you first land on that website. There's an incentive to give up your email address by getting this download, because people don't want to give up their email address for just anything. It's like paying money, paying with your email address. It has a value, and they'll only give it up if they get something that they perceive of really good value in return.
Hi, just looking at your LinkedIn, and I'm just wondering, what do you suggest to us when we have those 120 characters? I noticed you categorize yourself in yours, but I'm wondering, do we do copyright stuff there, or?
We talked about the power of attention grabbing. On LinkedIn, you get what's called your professional headline, and it's 2 lines of text. Most people put in there just their job title, but we know the power of headlines, and you can use that in many different ways. One of the reasons I put my job titles in there is so it help it get found on search, but I'm not bothered about being found on search because most of my business comes from word of mouth. It's repeat, recommendation, referral, and any of us that are an expert in what we do, it almost doesn't matter what we do on our website. That's a credibility piece, but most of our business will always be word of mouth and not so much from strangers. However, I know somebody who's put in his LinkedIn headline that he's a chocoholic. As a result, he gets sent chocolate. I know somebody who is a recruiter, and some days he will put he's a recruiter who's an expert in JavaScript programmers, and then he does some marketing reaching out to JavaScript programmers, and they all think, oh, he's an expert in us. And the following day he might be an expert in landscape gardeners. And so you can change it as often as you want. You can put your call to action in there. You can put if you're looking for an introduction to Brad Pitt and you've got a reason why, you could put that in your professional headline. So using it strategically and intelligently is the key, working backwards from what is your most wanted response. The other key is that when all this started a year ago and lockdown came, I didn't have a crystal ball, but I did have a sense that we were in this for the long haul. And I instantly made an online show reel and changed some of my LinkedIn content to be online trainer. And as a result, I now get found for a search of online trainer. And next week I'm being paid to deliver a webinar for a training company here in the UK who found me for a search of online trainer. So all your marketing has to start from a strategic point of view, including your LinkedIn.
So many a time the website is like a single page which keeps scrolling, and you find that there are many action buttons, call to action buttons. And typically, what would you recommend? Should they all be one call to action? So whichever button they click, it goes to the same thing, or you can have different? And how many call to actions can you have on a website?
Oh, that's a huge question. And the answer, of course, it depends. When it comes to web structure, a lot of websites have navigation with separate pages, and like the couple that we just looked at. And then there is the kind of website that just scrolls down and down and down and down one long page. To make a decision about the best way to structure your own site, I would say check your Google Analytics and see what device are people using to visit your site. If you find that most people are on a desktop or laptop, you can have what's more of a traditional structure because people are viewing on a big screen and they can navigate easily around. If you find most people are viewing it on a tablet or phone, then you might want to have just a single page with more scrolling, just to make it easy for people who are viewing it in that format. Either way, when you brief a web designer, you want a responsive website, and that means it works on both devices. And if you want to check whether your website is mobile friendly, Google has a free mobile test. Just do a Google search for mobile test, and you type in your web address, your URL, wait a few seconds, and it will reveal whether there are any problems with the responsiveness of your site. When it comes to call to action buttons and how many you have, the short answer is keep it simple. For most of us, I think the next call to action step is let's talk. If it's an e-commerce page, it will be buy now. But normally when you're selling a service, there's some conversation that happens between visiting the website and handing over money. You have a discovery call, you put a proposal together, maybe you have a lot of tech conversation, and finally you do the speaking engagement and get paid. So there's a lot that happens, and trying to get people to book off a website is quite ambitious, but getting them to have an initial conversation is a nudge in the right direction. So that's probably the one call to action that you might want.
I understand the I versus you for sure, but sometimes there's some benefit to the we, the word we, us. It brings us together. Can you share a little bit more around your thoughts of not using that?
That's absolutely legitimate. Of course, you can use the word we when it's including you and the reader. When I'm trying to make the distinction between top-down and bottom-up language, which is my way of explaining it, it's top-down is written from the company perspective, using words talking about themselves, and bottom-up language is using words that will resonate with the reader. So it's taking yourself out of your shoes and translating that into language that the reader will respond to. But I'm never going to ban those top-down words altogether. Of course you will use them, but you need to use them from the reader's perspective. You can use the words you and your in a top-down way. If you were to say, you must be this, you must have that, you must do the other thing, that's using the word you, but it's doing it in a top-down way, so that won't work.
Thank you.
Shirley, would you like to just unmute yourself and just share your comment in person?
I've never seen Jackie present live, but I know of her, and I've met her before because she's in the UK, of course. But I've heard nothing but good things about her, nothing but amazingly good things about her. So, of course, I was pleased to recommend her when Eugene contacted me and said, do I know anybody who deals with copywriting? She was the first person on my mind. And I know she's got this book, and she is amazing at the different engagement techniques. So what I put in the chat box there is I think we can all learn a great lesson there. So many people share their screen. So many people share their screen, and they're always in that little box on its own in the top right-hand corner. What Jackie did, she shared a screen, she came back full screen. She shared a screen, she came back full screen. She's constantly engaging us, putting things in the chat box, doing little things with paper. She's constantly keeping the engagement. You could see every few minutes, right? I think we've all got a lot to learn from her.
Thank you so much, Jackie, for a wonderful session. Could you just share a little bit about that new book? What's it going to be called, and what basically is going to be in it?
Oh, I don't want to tell you what it will be called because that's
okay.
a hush secret. But there's a website there, a blog. I've interviewed lots of other people that I would call experiential speakers, put lots of ideas in there about how you can engage people online, and everything to do with the new book will come out in that blog. There's a Facebook group, a newsletter. So if you want to keep posted about the new book, signing up at the bottom of that experientialspeaking.co.uk page is how you'll get all the information as soon as it's ready. I get asked almost every day or every week to help speakers run a breakout or have an idea of how they can use Zoom to achieve a goal. So the only reason it's taking me so long is because I keep having new ideas, and I want to put as much value into this book as I can, but maybe I need to just get this one out and then write book 2.